Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out People of Reddit. Story 1. Petty tyrant humiliates himself. I facilitate. This is a long time ago when I worked in a software call center. I had recently had a baby and was working part-time from home. WFH was very new concept. I was one of the first to trial this, and there were plenty of people in management who did not approve of this, and assumed I was slacking off. And to be fair, I was not working standard hours as I negotiated a late shift to support clients on the other side of the country, working until 8 p.m. so my husband could look after the baby. My boss loved this as otherwise he would have to pay overtime for out-of-hours calls. We had to record time on each client so they could be billed. They had a separate reporting system. I had to manually enter the client, incident number, time spent and run the report, then press submit at the end of the week. This report was the responsibility of another manager who insisted that I had to submit the report by 5 p.m. on Friday so he could review the numbers Monday first thing. He would email me every Friday at 5 p.m. to say it was late again. I would explain over and over that I work until 8 p.m. and I would be submitting it that night. He just would not understand. Whatever, I did not report to him so I started to ignore him, which in retrospect was a mistake. So one week I received an email. This had been copied to every single layer of management above me, complaining bitterly about people who submit their report late every single week. It was obviously targeting me. I felt very isolated WFH, and felt like he was turning everyone in the office against me. WFH can be isolating, as we now all know. I went into the reporting tool and searched around and found an option to check for late submissions. Pressed it and entered my name. It came up with one late entry. Turns out the submission deadline was Sunday evening and my submissions were all on time. I pressed reply all on the email and attached a print screen of the report. Before pressing send, I checked more closely on the one late submission, which was entered first thing Monday morning. I searched my emails and found an email to this guy. You see, I had taken a 1-week vacation a couple of months prior and you could not enter your time in advance. So I had emailed him and asked him to enter it in my absence, and that was my one late submission. I attached a print screen of that as well. I rewrote my response many times, ranging from snippy thanks for wasting my time, to hurt I don't know why I am being targeted like this. But in the end I deleted all additions and sent just the print screens. I did add my immediate boss who had been mysteriously left off the original email. I never received any response to that email, but my boss called me howling with laughter. Everyone was talking about it. Suck it, Trevor. Story 2. Anything you can do I can do too. My roommate and I get along great now and I love living with her, but we had one major problem when she first moved it. She would get dressed with the door open, pee and poop with the door open, shower with the door open, and walk down the hallway naked. I asked and demanded over and over for her to stop, but she wouldn't do it. I told her many times it made me uncomfortable, but it wasn't getting through to her. One day I had enough and I told her if she can do it then I can too. She thought I was bluffing. She does not like other people's nudity, so I knew it would bother her. One morning she walked out of her bedroom naked, so I got out of bed stripped naked and went about my morning. I made breakfast and sat down at the table to eat as if nothing was different. She went back in her room and got dressed, then asked me to do the same. I explained that the discomfort she is feeling right now is the same discomfort I have felt every day for months since she moved in. I told her that I would stop only if she stopped, which she finally did. TLDR, roommate kept walking around naked, so I started doing the same thing and she got very uncomfortable. Be the first to comment. Nobody's responded to this post yet. Add your thoughts and get the conversation going. Story 3. Cranky neighbor cutting corners. We moved into a nice house that needed a lot of work, and we don't have a lot of money or free time, so it took us about 2 years before we could start working on the outside. We have a garden and a driveway, which is right next to my neighbor's driveway. The neighbors are a cranky boomer and his nosy wife. Judging from their pristine plastic and concrete garden, they hate actual grass, loose leaves, weeds and decorations of any kind. He's been complaining from the start about our unkept garden/driveway, the new tiles we ordered for said driveway, that were neatly stacked against the wall of our house, because it looked terrible in the messy backyard, mostly kids' toys and bikes, which he, by the way, can only see through his bedroom window. His wife is an old nosy bat who loved nothing more than standing on our property, keeping an eye on us through the window, going so far as sitting in my lawn chair. She only stopped when we placed a fence. Now she spies on us through the bathroom window. Recently Cranky Boomer was complaining about us walking over his driveway, which we only did because his wife said we could. The tiles had only just arrived and one pallet was placed in such a way that we had to walk around it until we were able to move it a few days later. So we made it a point to never set foot on his precious property, going as far as balancing over the row of bricks separating our driveways and fetching items like a ball that rolled over with a broom. Here's the revenge part. Cranky Boomer kept backing his car up over the corner of our driveway. We were redoing the tiles and a loose piece of tile laying there was cracked the next day. The tiles aren't really sturdy the first few weeks until they balance out, and of course, wouldn't want my pretty new tiles to crack, so I decided to put a nice solar lantern exactly on the corner of our driveway, with some nice potted plants and rocks and a garden gnome. He hates it. I watched him from the window, storming out and huffing and puffing. Next time he saw me he started shouting, "What is this thing? Are you trying to damage my car?" So I said in my most cheerful voice, "It's a solar lantern, sir. Isn't it the cutest?" He turned a bit red. "Why did you place that?" "It's a lantern, sir, to light the driveway. It's on my property." "No sir, it's not. I am telling you I don't want it there." "Well, I do sir, have a nice day," and I walked back in. He complained to my husband about me trying to reclaim my property by placing stupid decorations. I love watching him struggle with parking because he was so used to cutting the corner. One day the lantern suddenly disappeared, so it has been replaced by a bright pink one. I just love how he hates it. Story 4. Want to go through pedestrian zone with your motorbike? You'll ride at pedestrian pace. Hi all. This happened yesterday. I was out for a run, and I was going through a park, where there are some small, let's say trails. It's in the city, so don't image mountains and such. Just quite narrow unpaved roads, let's say narrow central parkways. If two people meet, one has to go slightly out of the way to pass. Almost marginal for a small motorcycle. So, this park in a way cuts my area in two, and if you want to transit to certain places, you have to go around, as I believe in any part in the world, smiley face. Anyway, a lot of motorcycle users, the smaller ones, as the bigger wouldn't fit, like delivery people etc., tend to go through the part and its trails, instead of taking the 5 minutes normal route. This is of course forbidden, against the law, and of course dangerous for the pedestrians, as there are a lot of families with small children learning to walk or bike, strollers, elders walking etc. So, as I was running, I was such a motorcycle about to come into the trail I was on, so I told the guy that he shouldn't come through here and go around, quite politely I must add. As a typical Greek guy, he started shouting that he can go wherever he wants, and I should shut up, and So, okay. Please be my guest and get in the trail. He is behind me, and if I don't move to the side there is absolutely no way he can get through without hitting, and injuring, me. As you can guess, I never gave way, only for a couple of older ladies coming from the opposite side on their walk, that were also critically starring him. I also slowed my running to a point it was more of a walk. He had to stay behind me for about 5 minutes, which is less than the time it would have taken him to use the normal road. Of course shouting the whole time, but who cares? I know, it's not much, but I felt good. Smiley face, TLDR, I made a motorcyclist stay behind me running slowly because he was at a pedestrian trail. Story 5. Sign me up for your crypto junk mail reported to your boss. A company I work for asked me to substitute for another teacher, let's call him Fred. Instead of leaving the textbook with the students and emailing me the details, Fred insisted that we meet in person to hand over the textbook and give me the details of the class. Apparently leaving the textbook with the students after the lesson is fine, but I have to meet him to pick it up? Kind of a waste of time, but okay. When I meet Fred, he spends more time trying to sell me on cryptocurrency than discussing the class. He hardly spent any time on the latter. As soon as I figure out that that was his reason for meeting in person, I check out. This must have been palpable because he snaps at me for not paying attention, and that this is a huge opportunity for me. I was pretty pissed at having my time wasted, and for the sake of trying to sell me something I have negative interest in. But it gets worse. He must have signed me up for a newsletter, because he immediately starts sending me mass emails promoting whatever crypto trash he's trying to sell. I did not give him my email, he must have gotten it from the company. On getting the first one, I reply to him in no uncertain terms that this email account is strictly for work. I absolutely do not sign up for anything with it, specifically to keep it spam free. His response is oops. No apology. No remorse. And he still didn't remove me from his fucking mailing list. So even though we ostensibly need to maintain email contact, so I can let him know how the class went, etc., I blocked him. Cue petty revenge. I contact my boss and let them know all of this. They expressed shock and sympathy, and forwarded it to their boss, who, in a work email, called him an asshole. From what I understand, he is no longer with the company. Story 6. Don't annoy those that bring you your food. This is a story of why you should never piss off my mother. So not my own story, but possibly the origin of hereditary pettiness. Let's cut to it. My mum once worked as a waitress in a casino, out on the floor, walking round the tables bringing drinks to the already drunk and retrieving requested food from the free buffet the casino provided. She had a very regular customer that would always go out of their way to demand things in the most demeaning way possible. The words please and thank you were not in his vocabulary. In fact, he often lacked a vocabulary at all and simply clicked his fingers to get the attention of the servers. My mum, still in her youth, finding her way in the world in her first ever job, put up with this for far longer than she would today, until, one day she snapped. Already in an awful mood that day, the dreaded customer walks through the doors, takes his seat at his usual table and clicks his fingers and demands a ham sandwich to be brought to him. It is now the perfect revenge pops into my mum's head. Nearing the end of her shift, currently 7 hours in, constantly on her feet, only 1 hour left. My mum scurries off to the buffet to retrieve his ham sandwich. Picking the sandwich up from the buffet, she separates the bread, removes the ham, slips her shoes off, places the ham inside of her shoe, puts the shoes back on her feet and walks over to the rude customer apologizing that the kitchen are just making a new batch of ham sandwiches so it will be about 5 minutes. In those 5 minutes my mum's just walking round the casino, ham in her stinky shoes letting her revenge grow more and more pungent. When the ham was nice and warm she went back to the bread she had stashed under the buffet table, removed the ham from her shoes and placed it back in the bread. With a huge smile on her face she made her way back over to the horrible customer, placed the sandwich in front of him and apologized for the wait. Retreating to a dark corner of the room she stood and watched him eat the whole sandwich with the most malicious of grins. A truly historic moment for my family. That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.